you for being here. I think we have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to digest. We have some disappointments as well, but we continue to move forward to do as much as we can to get pro-choice women. Let me recognize Delane Easton, who is a member of our caucus, and she doesn't have to be, so we really appreciate her being here. Hi, Delane.
Great to be here. I'm very, very proud of all of you. I've been a member of the caucus since Hector was a pup, since Karen and I were pups. And but I think the work is more important than it's ever been before. I think we are actually in the most dangerous time our country's ever been in, and although California is not Georgia, still in all, we have to be very vigilant, and we have to make sure that women's voices are heard. I'm thrilled with some of our results this year, especially here in California, but we've got more work to do. So thank you all for taking the time to do this. I'm proud to be associated with you.
Thank you. We appreciate hearing that. Okay, now we'll go to the panel, and it's not a panel in the traditional sense. We're giving this opportunity for all of our endorsed candidates to speak. And the fairest way to do that is to start with the state offices and then move our way down, considering who's here and who isn't. So looking at the board, let me make sure I'm looking at the whole board. Let me go back. One ringy dingy. You have to be old to remember that. Annika is sitting there looking at me like, what's that about? I'll tell you later. It's Saturday Night Live.
Lily Tomlin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first person to speak tonight is going to be our new Assembly member, Stephanie Nguyen. Stephanie, to do this the way we want to do it, we have about 2 or 3 minutes for each candidate to speak. And I am desperately trying to remember what were the 3 things we wanted you to talk on.
It was your greatest challenge.
See? Well, see, you know, so you can just go ahead.
I remember that. Okay, 2 minutes. Thank you, council member. And it's so nice to see you all again. I apologize. I'm doing this from my car. I remember when I did the interview, I did it from my car. And I have to tell you, it hasn't stopped. I'm supposed to be at an event here at 7 o'clock, a summit in Napa. And so I'm driving and I'm like, I'm gonna have to pull over to do this because this is so important to me. That I not only thank you for helping me get to where I am, but I agree with Ms. Delane Easton in that it's a great start, but we absolutely need to do more. You know, I'll tell you my greatest challenge, and I want to also congratulate everybody, all the women that ran, because it was tough, especially this year. Not only was it tough, but it was nasty and it was horrible and it ruined many of our lives. And so the challenge was just seeing all the negativity that was being thrown out there. The challenge was finding the money to be able to combat some of this, respond to some of that, right? And I'll tell you, being a woman, I saw how men had it so easily. They made the phone call and the money was there, where we had to explain ourselves and tell them, you know, what we had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and what we did, you know, 2 weeks ago and last month and last year before they would even consider us. And so seeing that, I thought that was only a local thing, but seeing it happen at the state level too made me sick to my stomach. But made me also want to run and run harder, because every time that I knocked on that door or got up in the morning, I thought of my 2 little girls, right? And I thought we need to make change, and it happens here so that our little girls can see this. And I'm so happy that I won, obviously, but more so than anything, we had such a ground game of community members that Councilmember Lauren Herron, you would recognize from years and years ago, because they never came out and did this work, right? You're talking like the Sunny Chong and the Roy E. Murrahs and the, you know, those guys actually came out every day and phone banked for me and knocked on doors. They've never done that before, but it was so heartwarming to see our community members coming out and really pushing for this. And so I I honestly had a concession speech, right, made up because I thought I'm not going to win. There's so many things against me. I really did not think I was going to win. So I was not prepared to give a speech of, we are in the lead, right? And I thought to myself, if we lost, I could accept that, right? But my heart broke for the community members that came out and did this every single night in their weekends and sacrificed their family time. And so I am fired up after seeing what we all had to go through, and I'm pumped and I'm jazzed and I'm ready for more. I think I took up more than 2 minutes, council member. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's absolutely okay. And I don't know why I knew this, but I knew that you were going to win. I knew it was going to shock everybody. I knew it was going to take forever to count the votes. And then it didn't take that long because you got the lead and you never let it go. So we are equally proud of you. You just need to know that. And you should take great joy in raising the money if you have any debt from all the people that, supported somebody else and didn't want to give the time of day because you were a woman.
Yeah.
And you'll be just as charming now, and you will be to them when you take their money.
Yes, and make sure they give to more organizations like this right here, right? Because we need to do a whole lot more. So I've got a lot of priority organizations that I'm talking to give to.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Next would be Paula Villaquez, if she's here. Paula, are you here? Because I'm going back and forth on the screens.
I know she's
okay.
battling some sickness in her house, so she might not be able to make it.
Okay, all right. Then next would be Rebecca Chenoweth, who ran for State Assembly District 5, and I saw Rebecca earlier somewhere. And if you're here, just go ahead and unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Yep, I unmuted myself.
So what was the challenge?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The challenge for me was fundraising, and I knew it would be, and I started off really well. And then when you have to circle back and ask the same people for money again, that was really a struggle for me. But I want to talk about the second question. The biggest surprise for me, because I ran in a R+12 district, was that in the primary, 3 Republican men ran against me. And obviously 2 of them didn't make it to the general, but they both reached out to me and supported my campaign because they disliked the gentleman who won that much, which was very surprising to me, to be supported by 2 Republicans that ran against me in the primary. Also, other Republicans reached out and supported me. That was surprising. I focused on the Democrats and the no party preference, and to have Republicans supported me was a serendipity that I hadn't expected. And then the third question, what advice I would give to other women seeking office: start earlier. I didn't start until January. I didn't have as much time as I would have liked, and so start earlier. And if you change your mind, you can always not run, but start earlier in making contacts and fundraising.
Well, you've answered everything.
Yes.
And
I'm a lawyer. I'm very trained to answer the questions.
and you were a great candidate too. You need to know that. And we all cheered you on, and we are so grateful that you ran, because it's a big decision and it's not easy. Now, I know that there are some folks that may have questions of some of our endorsed candidates. We're going to hold them all to the end. So if they hang in there and they can answer the questions, they will, but you can put them in the chat and we can get those to them if we have to, if need be. Gail's got her hand up. Gail, I can't take the question right now.
No, I meant to do this one.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Rebecca. I really appreciate it. Hang around the meeting for a little while, because I think
Okay.
I'm going to enjoy what other people are going to say as well.
Thank you.
I've just been given the okay on our newly elected state senator, Angelique Ashby. So Angelique, the way the panel is going is like the notice we sent you, what was the greatest challenge? What was the surprise? And what advice would you give to women running for office? But I have to take this moment to say, Angelique, girl, I am so proud of you. I don't even know what to say.
Woo-hoo! Yeah, baby. Thank you so much. I am pulling up your questions here to have them in front of me. But before I answer those questions, let me just say that I'm really grateful to this organization and everyone in it, especially your leadership, Councilwoman Hammond, Mayor Fargo, others. From the very first step that I took, had this mentality, this attitude of lifting me up. And I would never, let me repeat, never have made it to this seat on my own. It's not possible. I'm the first woman in 20 years to hold it. And by the way, the last person to hold it, it was a pretty different seat. It was really suburban. And there are a lot of ladies who are able to make it into the legislature in those suburban seats, but in a big city like Sacramento, it's hard and it's a tough race. And you all saw it. You got a front row seat to that race. If it wasn't for being lifted up by women, those who have come before me, those who were surrounding me, it's just a very difficult thing. So a couple of things. One, Lauren Hammond and Heather Fargo are women who, to me, are trailblazers for all of us. And I have a mentor like that too, named Betsy Marchand. And I turn to them often. Delane Easton, I see her on this call. There's another one who just, says yes over and over and over again to women like me. And then that's one group of women. And I know there's a saying about standing on their shoulders. It's true, but I have an image in my mind of Lauren Hammond and Heather Fargo stretching their arms as high as they can to try to boost me over a fence. And I think about it all the time because there wasn't somebody there to do it for them. And then they turned right around and still helped me. No, like, oh, hey, it didn't happen for us, so we're not going to help you. It's completely the opposite. Like, if we can stack enough of each other on top, we could probably reach it if we work together. And that is the only way that I was able to get over that fence. Then there's another group of women in my life, and they're my contemporaries. And sometimes I call them my mentees because they call themselves my mentees. But in a race that gets really ugly, it's extremely important to have a cohort of friends who really understand what you're going through. If you were ever on a phone call with Rosanna Herber and I, we've literally gotten on the phone with each other for hours at a time to just mentally process all the things. She went down all of those roads with me. And then there is a text chain that probably someday could make Jaclyn Moreno, Karina Talamantes, and Katie Maple and I very rich, because it's like 2 years long. And it's us in every high and every low of all four races together. Jaclyn, big endorsement, all of us. Yes, you can do it. You can do it. Jaclyn being screamed at a door by somebody calling her a name. And then all of us, that's not right. You don't deserve that. Katie having somebody really disappoint her. And then we all, head over there to help her. Karina being misquoted and having people that she could talk to freely. And all of us really, those ladies, Rosanna, Katie, Jaclyn, and Karina, went through every step of this race with me. And I know they felt it just as deeply as I did. Cried tears for me, often, got mailers and were defending me before I ever even saw a mailer. And so my first bit of advice to women when they run, Councilwoman Hammond, is surround yourself with an army of strong women ones that are running behind you, ones that have run before you, ones that are walking beside you. There were women in the legislature too who reached out to me. Christina Garcia, Holly Mitchell, the Rubio sisters. Christina Garcia sent me a note almost every week to check on me. I couldn't even imagine such a thing, that there's a whole caucus of women. I was all by myself for so long that this idea that there would be women that would be checking on each other, sending you flowers during a campaign, that it never even occurred to me, but it was magnificent, and it continues to be magnificent now. So I thank this group for walking through every difficult fire that we had to walk through in that race. The victory is just as much yours as it is mine.
See, now I'm all choked up. If I say one thing, we're all going to be crying. Because I really appreciate how humble you are. And I know that what you went through was very humbling. And I want to be fair because I told everybody 2 minutes. And I think you answered the questions. And it's not so much that we have questions. When we say, where do we go from here? We just want to continue to move forward. And I think everyone that's spoken has told us how we continue to move forward and continue to elect pro-choice women. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So Senator, I mean, I love saying that. Senator.
Sounds so good.
It does sound good. We want to thank you for being here. And if you have time, we'd like you to stay.
I'm gonna. I have a son just home from college, so I promised him I'd be quick, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Most of you on this call know me well enough to know I always speak my piece.
I froze her for Angelique. And
Lauren is a little, am I frozen or is Lauren frozen? Is it me? Oh, you, okay. Okay. I just want you to know, yeah.
Can I say something? I'm so thrilled by your election, Angelique, and all the other wonderful women who are with us tonight. I wanted to just show you all something. This is the cover of the California Journal in 1988. It's about the class of 1986. They called it a capital class. And oh, by the way, you should say it's the freshmen, but who am I? Anyway, that was the biggest class of women in history, 1986, 75 years after women had the vote, we elected 5 women. How many did we elect this year?
Well, there's 51 in the legislature now.
The biggest ever.
There are 6 new ones in the Senate.
Wow. 6 new in the Senate. So that's more in the Senate than there was in the whole legislature in 86 as new members.
Let me tell you a couple encouraging things. We're only 2 away from half in the Senate. There are 18 women, so we're only 2 away from half. You can guess where I've set my sights. And Mayor Fargo, I asked this question of the historian just for you. I am number 59, where I was number 12, I think is my number on the city council.
So yeah.
And I am number 59 in the state legislature, and we're in the Senate. And we are at 63 with my class. So keep going.
When I got to the legislature, the first woman ever elected to the Senate was still there, Roseanne Vuitch from Fresno. So I just say we've come a long way. We still got a ways to go. I look forward to the day when we have more women than men, because after all, nobody thinks anything if there are more men than women. So let's work to be for equity. But the women work really, really hard. And I really want to salute you, Angelique. I know you're going to bring a lot of value, and I thank you so much. By the way, these are the biggest districts in America. So she's got a lot of work to do. I hope you all keep encouraging her.
Oh, we will. You can absolutely believe that. Now, I got so excited, I forgot that I was supposed to be trading off with our new endorsement chair, Annika Olson. So I'm going to let Annika introduce the next group of people, and that should be Jaclyn Moreno, then Bina Lefkowitz, because Bina has to go somewhere, and then Karina will be on at 7. Then you can squeeze everybody else in and out of that. Take it away, Annika.
So our next candidate is Jaclyn Moreno. She ran for county supervisor for District 5 of Sacramento. And the same 3 questions to you, Jaclyn.
Yes, first of all, I see so many friends on this call, and I have had hours and hours of conversations with so many of you here throughout this campaign. And look, it wasn't the outcome that we wanted. I lost by 328 votes. I lost by less than 1/3 of a percentage point in a district that cast over 105,000 votes. So, you know, we didn't win this, but I did want to just talk about, you know, some of the, I think, challenge, surprise, and advice. So the biggest challenge I had in this race was clearly I'm not part of the good old boys club. I, you know, have only been around in politics for 4 years, and my opponent has been around a lot longer. And I hit so many barriers, even to just getting meetings with people who wanted to write me off from the beginning. Most of the people that hold the purse strings are men. Most of the people who are decision makers in regards to where PAC funding goes are men. And not just, and sometimes not men who are allies, right? Men who want to keep the status quo. And that makes it really, really tough. And I don't think I was expecting it to be so tough, because I come from a mindset that the person who has the best ideas should get the job, and the person who works the hardest should get the job. And so that was a little hard for me to swallow, because I was so new to politics that I hadn't quite experienced that. But nevertheless, pushed forward, raised a ton of money, and was able to get my message out. I think if we would have had a little bit higher of a voter turnout, we could have squeaked through that victory. But nevertheless, it wasn't all for nothing. I say that because throughout this campaign, you know, I've lived in Elk Grove for 22 years, and I don't ever remember an election cycle where people running talked about climate change in the South County, talked about abortion access, talked about mental health care. And not only did we talk about those issues, but we doubled down on a lot of those issues. And I think that we will bear the fruits of that effort as we move on and we move forward. The biggest surprise to me is my race was clearly a Republican on Democrat race. And the biggest surprise, we're having Democratic, sometimes pro-choice Democratic women endorse my Republican opponent. That was really surprising to me. I understand friendships are important, and you know, it's important to, you know, stick with your friends, but if you're going to claim to have a certain value, I think that you need to be cognizant of that when you're making your endorsements. So that was a big surprise to me. And then advice, you know, I want to just kind of second what Angelique talked about. There is no possible way that I could have done anything that I did without the group of women that were around me. And many of you, like I said, are on this call. Maria, you were a part of my team every week, showed up. We talked about how to get those votes out in Rancho. Lauren, you and I had calls. I see Heidi on this phone, who was instrumental in getting me funding and talking to the environmental community about how important this race was. Rosanna, you and I, dinners. Zima, my girl. Delane, I think you just kept donating. I kept asking, you kept giving me money. Nancy Fox, Katie Maple, Heather Fargo, Anna Molander. I mean, there's so many people. Of course, Angelique, Garina, who's going to get on this call. I couldn't have done it without you. And I think, you know, after being a part of this political system for the last 4 years, you can really break down. I really feel like there are two types of women that get involved in politics. And they're the women that, you know, are present in this room, that lift people up, that even when as they're climbing the ladder, they work to pull people along with them. They work to surround themselves with people who want to see other women succeed. And then there's women who, as they rise, they're closing the trap door behind them. They're not pulling other women up with them. And I want to be I don't want to be that type of woman. I want to be the type of woman who works to help as many people as I can move up that ladder. And even though I lost this race, it doesn't mean I'm going anywhere. I'm still going to be around, and I'm still going to be here to help other women navigate this crazy political system and to win races, because I got so close and I know how to win. I know how to do it. And I know how to deal with sexism and the ups and downs and the roller coasters of going through this crazy hell that we call campaigning. And, you know, anyway, that's longer than 2 minutes, but thank you for giving me the time. And I think everyone's going to be longer than 2 minutes, Lauren. I think 2 minutes is it's a pie in the sky. But, you know, I appreciate all of you so much. And thank you for being there for me throughout this entire roller coaster of a ride.
Annika, are you gonna introduce the next person?
Yes, sorry, my
And,
apologies.
and Jaclyn, we get it. We know that's why we wanted to do this thing. So we just ask people to be patient, and we're gonna kind of go in and out of the order of how we were gonna do speakers. Annika, I think you're gonna introduce Bina next.
Yes. So next is Bina Lefkowitz, who ran for Sacramento County Board of Education, board member A1. So same 3 questions to you, Bina.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. So first on the challenges, for me, it was really a very personal challenge. And that is, I'm a pretty private person. I don't really like doing a lot of public speaking. I ran for a position because I love the policy side of life. Running for office is all about politics. And I really, there were moments when I wasn't sure I could actually do it. And I want to give shout out to Jaclyn Moreno, Rosanna Herber, Margaret Fortune, and then a few of you here, Karen and Delane, who were great cheerleaders, and the whole National Women Political Caucus. It was, as Angelique said, it was really good to have that support from other women. You know, and Jaclyn's, she said, running for office is not for the faint of heart, and that really struck me, and I appreciate that wisdom you shared. So definitely, I would say that was the biggest challenge for me on that. In terms of surprises, you know, you think I've been involved with politics because of my spouse for a long time, but I was surprised, quite frankly, at the Democratic Party politics, because I'm not an insider. I just do the work, and our local politics, that is. And I was surprised at how inside it was. And also it surprised me, and it made me sad, because I felt like it in a way damaged or harmed or put a strain on some relationships I've had for quite a while with some folks doing work together, doing political, you know, school board stuff together. And so that was kind of surprising and sad to me. In terms of lessons learned, a few things. One is, even though endorsements are nice, it's really about getting out and talking to the voters, which to me was the most fulfilling part of the running for office, but it's easy to get caught up in all this endorsement stuff. And so I'm proud that I knocked on 6,000 doors, and I want to thank Rosanna for doing some of that with me. The second lesson learned, I guess, is building relationships and doing that. You know, I've been in the community a long time, so I've had a long time to build relationships, and I really think it helps to earn people's trust and respect. So again, taking time to build relationships maybe before you decide to run. The third point for me was know your values, because you are going to be in situations when you're talking to groups of people who are going to push you on issues. And I think it's important to be honest and know your values and not just say what people want you to say. And then my last advice is hire a really good team of people who can do your mail, who can do really good mail. I had a really good person doing my mail, helping you raise money and helping you with a ground campaign. So those are my tips. So thank you.
Alrighty. And then thank you very much, Bina. I learned a lot, like the adding people to your team, that stuck with me. Sorry, I just felt like mentioning that. Next for City Council, we have Lisa Kaplan, who ran for City Council D1. And it is the same 3 questions to you, Lisa.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having all of us on. It's really cool to see everyone. And for me, I will tell you, one of the things that really running for City Council helped ground me was my endorsement interview with NWPC. When Lauren looked at me and said, "We are your friends. You don't have to work so hard." Because I have been a school board member for 20 years. All I know is to work hard and fight, because Bina said it. I have been a school board member. I am a good school board member. I am a good Democrat, but the party politics make me feel like a bad Democrat and have made me feel like that for a long time. So I feel like I have to fight. So I feel like I had a leg up a little bit because I've been fighting them for a long time and realized, as Bina said, I will tell you, and it's a little bit like backwards. But you know, having done this for a long time, she's right. One, know who you are. Because if you don't, people will start realizing you change it. Have that grounding in who you are. Know your why. And absolutely get involved in the community and do things you love. So when you run for office, you're actually talking about why you love your community and you've been there and you've done it. I mean, so it comes from the heart. I think we have to change the way politics are. And by talking from the heart and running from the heart, you're going to get, as more women get elected, that empathy. My biggest challenge, so this was my 5th election. I have been both a single person and a mom running, and I'm used to the August to November sprint. The biggest challenge running for City Council was, how do I balance it all for 1 year? So I am a huge proponent for ranked voting, because my race would have been done in June. And also, biggest challenge, politics and running for office is not meant for mom of young kids. I'm lucky that I have my own business. It is not meant, let me repeat that. We talk about young voices and we talk about voice and getting more women elected. This job does not benefit or help moms of younger kids in schools. I am glad that I could pay for daycare, but you know, I can't pay for campaign daycare. Do you know how expensive it is? like mailing and everything else. So the how do I mom, how do I business, how do I raise money? I mean, I spent 6 to 8 hours a week calling to raise and ask for money. And then here's a problem that people don't realize. When people think you're going to win, all the volunteers went to like Jaclyn's races and Katie's races and Karina's races. So I had friends supporting me, and God love my mom's group. My moms were out there knocking and walking. And if you are blessed to still have your mother alive, my mother was the best phone banker alive. She called everybody 65 and older. So if you got a mom and you're running for office, your moms are the best thing. And honestly, the biggest surprise is the amount of people you find when you're in a pickle are willing to help you, who may not necessarily be like your closest friend, but being willing to ask. There are so many people who are out there to support you. You have to ask. And honestly, that's my biggest problem. I am a type A do-it-myself attorney. I solve problems. And so the ask for me is hard. And I know that about myself. But knowing the people who are willing to step out that don't really know you, but see you and see how hard you're working, for me, that was extremely heartwarming and made it easier. And I got to tell you, whomever your partner is, make sure your partner and your family are 100% on board. I could have not done this without BG and the girls. And I loved it that my girls wanted to go walking and knocking on doors with me. You know, so when you have young kids, make it a family thing, do it together. And for me, that was such a great experience, but it was hard. And I thank you, Lauren, for being that person to tell me to breathe.
It's no problem. And we're very proud of you, and congratulations. So if anyone has questions, put them in the chat. And if our candidates are still with us, we'll make sure that they can answer those questions. And if they're not here at the end by tonight, we will send out the questions to them, because you can't shake us. We're here with you. We're gonna always be here for you. Okay, I think I saw Cynthia Rodriguez. Cynthia, are you still here?
Right here. Thank you.
For those folks who don't remember, hold on a second, Cynthia. Cynthia ran for Yolo County District Attorney. So Cynthia, the 3 questions are: what was the greatest challenge? What was the biggest surprise? And what advice do you have for women running in the future?
Yeah, I just want to say that the greatest challenge for me, I appreciate being here, first thing I should say. And the second thing is that the greatest challenge for me was the very definition of my race, which is that my opponent was a 4-time incumbent running for his 5th term. So he is very well known. And he is a very hardline prosecutor who believes in prison first and running as a progressive with a different take on what we should be doing to make our communities safe. He really had endeared himself to a lot of people, which is really interesting to run against somebody who's kind of running against their own record, because he's saying, we've got to stop this devolution to homelessness and wildness in the streets. And it happened under his 16 years of being the DA. And I lost this race, but I feel like I learned so much, and I had so much opportunity to talk to people about what I believe in. And so it's interesting, we say, know your values. You're absolutely right. And I knew them, luckily, as a 40-year attorney. I really knew my values in criminal justice and in criminal justice reform. And so I felt like that really gave me a leg off. The hardest thing, that other than the fact that this guy was such a long-term incumbent, was the fact that I was very little known in Yolo County. I'm not a super social person or really well known. So I had to get my name out there. It's a county-wide office. So there were a lot of different cities and locations, a lot of driving, a lot of folks that didn't want to be out in COVID, a lot of criticism from the Davis and Winters community for doing meet and greets during COVID, which was, most of the time I was running. So that was difficult, because I was trying to get my name out. I did events for over a year, 3 or 4 times a week, I mean, events, as well as daily going places and doing things. And my advice to people would be that getting your name in every mouth is the most important thing, and it is the hardest thing for a new candidate. I have to, of course, like everyone, I have to say how grateful I was for this endorsement. And I think one of my strongest suits was that I had a lot of great endorsements. And so, I came on strong with those. I mean, I got a good percentage of the vote. I was really pleased with that. And most of all, I was pleased at being able, my office is a particular type of office where you can really teach people about what it is that a DA does, because most people are not really aware of what a district attorney does, but most people are hungry to hear that and glad to hear that. And so, progressive DA is a thing now, and it hasn't always been a thing. So, if I had to say what I would do differently, I would find a way to spend more money earlier. I mean, we really saved money for the the last couple of months, but I think it would have been more effective if we'd been able to contact more people sooner. And my advice to women is seeking office or not seeking office is that we have to do it. We have to get out there and do it. I mean, one of the big problems with this office is that there have been 4 other people who ran against this DA, and all 4 of them have left the county. Practicing attorneys have left the county afterwards, except for the last one who just retired. So it was hard to get somebody to run, really hard. And I'm proud that a woman stepped forward on myself, but I'll be proud of any woman who steps forward. And it's a very important thing to do. And as I've told folks, if someone else doesn't step up, I'll do it again, and I'll spread the story of criminal justice reform and look for support like your group, support like I received from folks who really understood. And one of the people who other people have mentioned, but was so important to me, was Delaney Stin, who not only gave me a lot of great advice, a lot of great ideas, both specific and generally, and who also called me afterwards when I was in the period where I was so disappointed that I wasn't going to be able to make the changes that I thought were so important. And Delaney called and reminded me that there will be women in the future. There will be Latina women. There will be people of color who I will have helped blaze the trail for. And women in particular we need to blaze that trail for each other, because we haven't always had opportunities, and we haven't always had one of the wonderful things about my race is I could actually tell you that a man stood on the street in Woodland with a sign saying, "A man must be district attorney." And so we're still fighting, not to forget that we're still fighting really old-fashioned ideas in specific races and in all races in general, but particularly the DA's been hard to get women elected. So I can't thank you enough for your support. It meant a lot. When people heard I had your support, they were very excited. So again, thank you. And any questions, I'm happy to talk about the race here in Yolo County.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. We were very happy to endorse you when we were able to. It was
Thank you.
it
was great.
big moment
It
for
really
us.
helped me a lot.
We were so happy to do it. All right, so skipping back across the pond again, we'll go back to the city of Sacramento, over to Katie Maple, City Council District 5. And it is the same 3 questions to you as well, Katie.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your support. And just really quickly, I want to do a birthday shout out to Mayor Heather Fargo. Good on you for literally being on a Zoom on your birthday. So, so let me start off with a challenge. Where do I begin? I would say one of the biggest challenges I had initially, so the way I think about my experience is in tranches, because I took the advice that someone shared earlier, which is to start early. So I did that. I knew that was one of the only ways that I was going to be successful, given being young, being a woman, kind of having relatively little experience in the political world. And so I started really early. 2 years, in fact, was the entirety of my campaign. And so I almost had like 2 lives. I actually had a different opponent in the first year of my campaign, and then another opponent in my second year. And so just kind of like dealing with those challenges. I would say the first big challenge that I faced was the being seen as legitimate is this really interesting chicken and egg thing where, you know, in order to be seen as legitimate, you need to raise money, but nobody wants to give you money unless you're legitimate. And so it's really trying to find people who believe in you, believe in your mission, are willing to stick out their necks and support you. And that was tough, but I was able to do it. I literally made a list of, you know, 50 people and just made phone calls and started out with, hey, do you think I'm crazy? I'm thinking of running for city council. And people would say, well, no, you're not crazy. I said, okay, well, how would you feel about donating to my campaign to show? And they'd be like, okay. And so, you know, just kind of starting it that way. And then same with the endorsement process, right? Like nobody wants to endorse you until they know that you're viable, which to them means having other endorsements. So it's you know, that game to try to convince you know, one organization or two organizations that you know what you're talking about. And so those were some of the big challenges. You know, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that I had almost $200,000 spent against me by an independent expenditure outside groups, and that was really tough. That was emotionally difficult, and I know historically candidates tend not to talk about those things or put on a tough face, and I did do that to an extent, but I also felt it really important to be vulnerable and open about the experience that I was having, because I know there's a lot of other women and other people before me and after me that will hopefully look at that. And I wanted to show that I'm a real human being and I have real emotions. And it was really hard for me and my family to go through that, to have thousands of people see, you know, mailers with my face on them. I would cry myself to sleep some nights. It was really hard. So I would say those were my big challenges. Surprise. I would say that the people who support you sometimes surprise you. So, you know, I try not to do this with anyone because it was certainly done to me. But I try never to put anybody into boxes. I try to never assume who people are or what they believe. I try to always talk with them and make sure I understand and know who they are. But of course, for expediency and for trying to be efficient, I would assume that certain groups or people wouldn't support me. And sometimes I was really shocked by people who are willing to stick out their neck and support me, and vice versa. I was also really surprised sometimes by the people who didn't support me. Some people that I thought, you know, that I aligned with for certain reasons. So, you know, I would say always have an open heart, open mind. Transitioning over to advice now, always keep an open heart and open mind for everyone in your circle, and you'll be surprised in positive ways about who you can bring on board. And I know it can sometimes be perceived as a negative thing to have people in your circle who may not always align with you politically, or, you know, may not always agree with you from a policy perspective. But I think it's really important to have people around you who disagree with you, because it shows that you're willing to learn and be open. And so, you know, I always welcome those people into my spaces. Other advice. Well, I'll just say a little story. Not everybody knows this, but when I was thinking about running for office, I had one person who would tell me, or many times over the years, saying, you should run. And that person was Angelique Ashby. And she must have told me, I don't know, like 10 years over the course of, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years, you should run. And I remember she texted me or called me or something in November of 2020, and she said, you should run. And that was the first time I said, okay, I think I will. And, you know, she stood by my side the entire time. She had my back even when it wasn't easy, and always supported me, even now after, you know, even in the aftermath, has been there, not just for me, but for Karina, for Jaclyn, for others. And so I'm grateful for that. And I think that's the power of having women around you. And I know I'm going over time, but I just want to say one more thing, a piece of advice: create a support network. So we had a group chat with me, Karina, Jaclyn, and Angelique, and that was like my support network. That was when I had a hard day, when I had something going on, I was just like, you know, and I would put it in there, and I would get a response from someone who knew what I was going through in the moment. And that was really hard to find anywhere else. So create that network for yourself. It's really important. So, okay, I'm going to stop. Thank you.
I guess we're back to me. Okay. I'm kind of glad because I get to introduce this candidate. This candidate ran for SMUD Ward 4, and I was very lucky to get to work on her campaign a little bit. So the next candidate is Rosanna Herber. Rosanna, same 3 questions to you. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Annika. Excuse me, went down the wrong height. Well, I just want to say that I'm not prepared because I didn't think I would come tonight, but just by listening to everyone, it's easy to follow the path. One thing I would say is if you're interested in running for office, start building your network now. That is one of the hardest things that women don't have to be able to go to folks and ask for money. So I would say that that is a real key thing. Second of all, the thing that surprised me the most was that there was somebody running against me who wanted to spend $70,000. I mean, I kind of thought that I had done a good job. So it was a surprise to me to see this challenger come out of left field, but it was related to some things happening at the SMUD board. But it really kind of surprised me because I thought if you're doing a good job that you don't get challengers. And I actually was at a holiday party last night and was complaining about this. And the gentleman said to me, "Oh God, Rosanna, it's a democracy. Anybody can run against you." So, you know, that is a good lesson to keep in mind, that even if you are a great board member, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get challenged. And last but not least, I want to thank all of the women who helped me. This was really, really hard for me because it's one thing to have a challenger. It's another to have somebody have so much money. And he was active and I knew it. And I had to ask people for more than I usually do. And I was just very gratified that, you know, the women's organizations stepped up, my friends stepped up, and I raised the money that I needed to get my word out to win, because it really, when you're in these huge districts where 100,000 people vote, you know, you have to reach them. And so I want to thank everybody for all of your support, whether you walked precincts or wrote those doggone postcards or gave money. But thank you, you know, for being here for women, because we've got to get more young women up and going. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosanna. You're always so nonchalant and humble. And you know that you've probably talked to most of the women that have run for office in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So yeah, you really did have to win your reelection. That is for sure. And we are so glad that you did. So next, I don't see Karina yet. And so
I just sent her the link, so hopefully she'll be popping on any second.
She just entered.
Karina just entered?
Yes, I just let her in.
Okay. So Karina, I know that you are pressed for time. And so we want you to go next. Karina Telemontes was a candidate for Sacramento City Council, District 3. And we were on pins and needles, but once she was ahead, she stayed ahead. So Karina, the questions that we've asked all the candidates are, what was the biggest challenge? What was the biggest surprise? And what advice do you give to women who want to run or are considering it?
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for having me. The biggest challenge, money, asking for money. And I know that we've all discussed it. And I know it's been part of leadership for all the different groups, from Women Democrats to National Women's Political Caucus, FemDems. But asking for money continues to be one of the hardest things and one of the obstacles for women seeking to run for office. And then do you want to repeat set question number 2? And then we'll just go down the road. Is that okay? Or
what was the biggest surprise?
the biggest surprise?
Other than the crazy man.
The biggest surprise was the fact that people associated me with other people, whether it was my partner, my boss, my friend, my mentor, Angelique, or the endorsements that I had made. There's a lot of people that they associated me with, and they just assumed that I would be like that other person, instead of just saying, hey, Karina is her own person. Karina can make her own decisions, and I'm going to be about to be 34. But like my own experience and my background got me here. No one else. I got myself here, and that's why I'm running. And so it was tough to just have to scream and shout that as I was running for office.
The last one is, what advice would you give for women who are thinking about running or being involved in a campaign?
Continue asking for help. And even if the answer is no the first time, ask for help again, and then ask for help again. And lean on the support system around you. You know, I'm see here, Katie Maple, Rosanna, Zima, Angelique, just a lot of women came through for me at the very end when I needed more money for my walk pieces. I was about $4,000 short. And women came through for me, very, very last minute asks, but continue asking for support always. And I know it kind of hurts to ask and have the answer be no, but you never know. The third time around, the answer might be yes. So keep asking.
Well, that's great advice. And again, congratulations. And we are
Thank you.
Extremely proud of you. And we know things will be different for your council district, 1, because it's new, but 2, because it's neighborhoods that have been put back together.
Yeah.
And you know, you'll be there, and they already know your work product. Did I freeze? Yeah,
You froze for
Karina
1 second.
froze, so I know that meant I really froze. So I think Monica is going to introduce Zima next, and then we'll do Rebecca, and then Anna. And Anna, thank you for being
just real quick, Lauren, you rock. And I'm thankful for you and Heather and other trailblazers that have given me the opportunity to run. So you're the hero here too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to move on to the San Juan School Board of, sorry, let me start over. We're going to move on to the San Juan Board of Education, Area 3, Zima Creason, who ran. Same 3 questions to you, Zima.
Sure. I'm going to change back to gallery view so I don't look at myself. Good evening, everyone. Super. I'll start with, I don't want to just stare and talk to myself. It's just awkward and weird and know what you're doing. First, I just want to start with a huge thank you. You in WPC showed up in so many different ways for me, and I really appreciated you so much, you know, just the checking in and just everything you stand for and everything you do. I know Karen has shown up at events. I've introduced other women that are thinking about running, say, if you're going to hook up with anyone, hook up with this group first. So just want to start off with a thank you. So greatest challenge, I'm going to say everything in plural, and I'm going to try to keep everything short, but it's really hard to pinpoint one item in all these 3 questions. So the greatest challenges that I'll uplift tonight is the personal attacks. When I first ran, this was my re-election campaign that I won. I first ran in 2018, and it was competitive. It was 4 of us running for 2 seats. But it wasn't mean, and it wasn't nasty, and it wasn't personal, and you didn't have to worry about people lying on you. Competitive, but it was fair. You know, this time it was not that. So that really was really hard. You know, I love policy. I've worked in policy, state policy for 2 decades. I am a passionate person. I could have passionate discussions about policy, but you called me out my name and we got a problem. And there was a lot of that, or people just lying. So that was that was the biggest challenge for me, staying in my integrity. And really, I kept kids in the forefront of my mind, you know, showing them a good example. How do we treat each other? Don't when they go low, you go high, you know. I really embraced that. So that was a huge challenge. Biggest surprise, there's so many surprises. One is it still continues to surprise me how little attention school boards get. They are the foundation of our nation, the foundation. I mean, public education is the foundation to all who we say we want to be. And they just don't get the love that they deserve or the attention that they deserve on so many levels. It was also very surprising that folks that don't align with our values, that aren't necessarily pro-choice, are becoming much more involved. They are resourced, they're getting organized, they're having events, they're, forming slates. We had Proud Boys running in the SJUSD. It was nuts, so that was, school boards need more attention, and we're the most public. I mean, all of us are public facing, but the community has more access to us than other local governments. And so the interaction's just different. And it really is a place where the foundation of our democracy is built. So I hope that we can spend more attention on school boards in the future. It really surprised me that people could just lie and get away with it. I mean, it certainly happened to me, but what happened to my friend Jaclyn, I call her Jack. She's like my bestie, and I'm watching these things happen, and I'm just like, how is this even happening that people could just get away with just lying on my friend? And it's just like, it's no thing, they kind of get this little reprimand and they continue to do it. And I know Katie Maple got it a lot. It was really troubling to me and very surprising that people could just lie on people and get away with it. It also surprised me that people show up to run for, and I agree with what Rosanna said, and it's 100% true. Everyone, that's another foundation of our democracy. Anyone can run, and that's a beautiful thing. It does surprise me that people run with so many opinions that never showed up to a meeting, have never tried to advocate for anything, and are generally not involved at all, but somehow know everything that you're doing wrong and they could do it better. It also is very hard for me to see people run, and their reason for running is out of their own mouth is they needed something to do. You hear that a lot in school boards. Oh, I needed something to fill my time. I have time. I just need something to do. Until recently, I was the only school board member that had a child attending a district school. So I took that really personally. It's like, my child is not your hobby. My child is not your pet project. This is a real job. This isn't something to fill your time. So what advice would I give women seeking for office? Number one, you are qualified. You can do it, period. Don't second guess it. If you think you have something to offer, spend the time, do your research, show up to a meeting, maybe meet with the current members, to get an idea of the job. But you are good enough. Never, ever doubt that you're not good enough. Do the research, make sure you're going for the right seat, but you are good enough. Never doubt that. I agree with what many people said, start early, real early. And there is some beauty. It was different. I did different approaches in 2018 versus what I did this round, but putting your name out there, open up your campaign committee, have your first fundraiser, have a website, make sure your presence is known and people know that you're going to run, because it can scare people away. And people will know in the back of their head, oh, I think this other person's out there and is thinking about running. So don't wait too long. Even if you can't, work on it every day yet, do that foundational work so people know that you exist. Endorsements are so tricky on both ways, who you endorse and who endorses you. I would say, there's people that I did not endorse that I think expected my endorsement. Number one, don't expect anything from anybody. That's just not how any of this works. And really listen to them, understand where they're coming from and why. And don't burn bridges, because you still may be working with that person later. We can all be adults and just be respectful of, where our values lie, and continue to do this good work and still remain in our integrity. That's really important. And that goes both ways. Don't get your feelings too hurt if someone doesn't endorse you. People have their reasons, and that's okay. And no one knows anyone anything. But again, remain in your integrity, keep it cool, because you'll probably be working together at some point. And I'll leave it at that. I know that was a lot, but again, we need more women that have our values. And I will say too, we say it in the Black community, not all folk is all skin folk is kinfolk, right? Not all women share our values. You know what I'm saying, Ms. Hammond? I know you know. I don't know how to do it the women's way, right? Not everyone holds our values, so that's something to think about too. Make sure, my friend Jack mentioned it before. There were women that say that they held our values, that endorsed a man that does not hold our values. It just doesn't track. And we need to be mindful as we continue to do our work and as we're supporting each other to make sure that, there's that through line in this work. So thank you. I'll stop there. Thank you for the opportunity and all your help and love.
Very well said, Zima. Thank you so much. And for time, we're going to move on to Rebecca Sandoval, who ran for Twin Rivers Board of Education, board member A6. Same 3 questions to you, Rebecca.
Yes, I've been on the Twin Rivers School Board for 10 years. And I've been working in my community since 1965. Just turned 70, woohoo. And I can say that the biggest challenge this time around was that I was first approached by a member of labor who told me that I needed to be careful because the boys in this town were not going to support me because they had selected a candidate that they're going to groom to move through the political system. I have been an elected delegate on the Central Committee. I have been elected in my community for 10 years. I worked in West Sacramento for 7 years on a gang injunction. My community has asked me to run because of issues that they were having. I have stayed involved in my community. So when I was told that labor was not going to support me, I should have listened. I wasted a lot of time filling out endorsement forms and going for interviews for endorsement with those in labor. It was very, very concerning that they didn't ask about children. They didn't ask about education. They didn't ask about they didn't even care that we are now fiscally solvent. When 10 years ago, we were looked at being taken over by the school board. I was disheartened. And then I just realized why I do this. As a 5-time cancer survivor, I could have just stopped a long time ago, but I do this from a place of love and concern for my community, and my community knows that. So I almost dropped out. I thought, I'm not going to win. But then what occurred was that my community knew that my commitment to what was going on in the school board, problems that my community had previously had with the police, the school board police department, the school police department, and I addressed a lot of those issues. So they knew me, they know my family, and I've been involved in things in this neighborhood since 1965. So as you say, as some of the women here have said, get involved real early. Well, I did at the age of 13, and I have continued. You asked what was the biggest surprise? The biggest surprise was that the executive director of the Central Labor Council started an argument with my campaign manager because he was upset that I won. Now, where that's happened in this country, okay, a nice congratulations, but that didn't happen. So that was extremely surprising. Now, when I thought about what advice I want to give, I first want to talk about the fact that my race isn't with 100,000 people. My race isn't like raising $70,000. A race for school board, and thank God for voting by area and not at large, and Zima, I'm sure you're happy about that, is that you don't have to raise that much money. When I first ran, I got a campaign manager. She said, oh, you have to raise $30,000. I have won my campaigns on less than $2,000 because what you do is you get out there and you go to the churches, you go to the carnivals, you go and you talk to the community. You talk to our elders, you get our elders involved. And I know that people have said, oh, we're of a different age and people use social media, so lawn signs don't matter. No, in my neighborhood, lawn signs matter. I still have people asking me from 4 years ago, Rebecca, how do I rate? Why didn't I get my lawn sign? So they've got to see your name. They know that the name of my family, who's been involved in this community for years, is stellar. And so where in other races, people have to raise a lot of money. They've got to do mailers. They've got to raise money for a lot of precinct walking and all of that. But what I was able to depend on is the name recognition, the fact that this board 10 years ago was getting ready to be taken over by the state, that we're at a point where the relationship now is a good one between my community and our police department. In fact, it's excellent now. And so I think people that are in school boards need to take advantage of the fact that we now vote by area. So if you know your community and they know who you are, and then you know you're a person of your word and that you've got their back, that's what you need. I spent way too much time worried about what labor was thinking, going after those endorsements. I would have been better probably spending some more time with my grandchildren than staying up late at night answering these questions, and then to be totally disappointed that those that interviewed me did not ask questions about children, which is what our school boards are about. So there you go.
Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate your comments and the reasons for them. Let me ask, we have one other person, and that is Anna Molander Herman. But Anna, if you could just wait a second, I also wanted to acknowledge our other elected officials who are part of NWPC Sacramento. Heidi is out there somewhere. I thought I saw her face earlier. And did I miss anyone else? I thought I saw another person who was elected. Heidi Sanborn, there she is. There's a little wave. Delane, I know that we said hi to. Rosanna spoke.
Erica Harden.
Erica
Harden is on the Natoma School Board and she's on the call.
Well, Erica, hi. How are you? Thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. So, Anna, the questions are, what was your greatest challenge? What was the surprise? And what's your advice? Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot to say what you ran for. Sacramento City the Unified School District Board of Education, seat 1.
So I wanted to answer Paula Lee's question and say, yes, I'm absolutely in favor of ranked choice voting. I think it saves taxpayers a lot of money, and it allows the will of the electorate to happen more quickly, and it reduces the influence of money in politics, which I think is a huge issue, particularly for women candidates. I wanted to start out with one of the challenges, and I think every single woman on this call is this. I'm speaking to you because this is the truth. You are a type A woman. You are competent. You run organizations. You are someone that people look up to. And when you step forward and run for office, people think, oh, she's got it. And you lose your ability to ask for help because you've always been the one who's been doing. And so make sure you have like a wingman or somebody who can do that for you, a campaign manager, something like that, because it is hard, and people are always a little bit surprised that super competent whomever is asking for help. And that was a real challenge for me, was making sure to ask for help and ask for it from the right people, and not expect people to just raise their hand because they think you've got it. And so they don't know that you really need them. No matter how many times you put it in that email every week that you send out, or your Facebook post, they don't know that they need you. So figure out how you do that and how you do that well. Because again, you're competent, but only to the extent you use your network well. My biggest surprise, so I know a lot of people talk about doors, and I have to tell a funny story, which was quite a surprise to me. I was knocking doors in Land Park and one day, and I knocked on a door, and a woman yelled out to me, "Hold on just a minute, I'll be there." And so I waited on the doorstep, and a woman showed up at the door wrapped in a sheet. And she invited me and said, "Oh, honey, I'm 86. I don't care what you see." And she sat me down, and we had a half an hour conversation. It was the most lovely conversation. She was butt naked underneath that sheet, and she didn't care. And it really made my day to be able to have that time with her. And she was lovely. And I go by and wave to her all the time now. And my advice for women running for office is start your address list now. And that means keeping an Excel spreadsheet of every person you know, their correct email addresses and their phone numbers and their addresses, because you're going to need all of that. And if you don't have it, and even keep track of like who asked for a yard sign or whatever, but keep track of people so that you can come back later and let them know, because they do want to know, they do want to help. And it's hard to remember all those people. You think you're going to do it and you can't. So put it all in an Excel spreadsheet. And thank you so much for all of your help. It was such a joy to be able to put you hugely on my flyers. And happy birthday, Mayor Fargo. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Fargo's got her dinner waiting for her. She should really probably be at Morton's having dinner, but we won't go into that. We'll just, next time I see Alan, we're gonna have a talk. So Heather, if you gotta go, you go ahead and go. Now, I think I've acknowledged all of our elected officials. And I know that this isn't our usual protocol, but we had more than one member and they ran against another member. So I just want to at least acknowledge Tamiko Heim, who ran against Katie Maples. And I will say, I haven't talked to Tamiko, I've talked to Katie, and it sounds to me like they're gonna actually work together, because hey, this can actually happen. You can run against somebody like them and work with them the way Genevieve Schroman and I did. So I just wanted to say hi to Tamiko. Now, we have some questions in the chat. One of them was about ranked choice voting. God, I hope I said that right. There might be some other.
Lauren froze.
You're frozen, Lauren.
Annika, are you on?
My apologies. We have someone over fixing our bathroom, so I need just a moment.
Lauren,
Well, I'll just,
there
let me
you go,
just
Lauren.
step in
Lauren,
then
you
and
froze,
say,
Lauren.
Was I?
Oh, she's back.
Oh man, when did I freeze?
Well,
when you were
it was
probably
a few
saying
minutes
something
ago,
really- probably something prolific. I was probably, something we all missed. But there was another question that was asked before the ranked choice voting was a question to any candidate. What is the best way to deal with negative campaigning, especially if the message is untrue, which seemed to something folks shared.
Yeah, if anybody wants to respond to that, just go ahead and unmute. What do you?
Seems to me we should ask Angelique to introduce some kind of legislation that talks about truth in advertising in campaigns.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about
the
that.
IEs are just out of control, and they're almost all
Absolutely.
controlled by men.
So here's briefly, while I in no way, shape, or form got the negative mail that Karina and Katie and Angelique got, what I did get was a lot of voters and other people coming to me and saying, so this is being said. This is what was put out here. This is what they're talking about. And I can tell you, I promised myself
having been around a long time and everybody's tired, and I've been a school board for 20 years, is that I promised kindness and that I was going to speak truth and I wasn't going to go there. And I really think that that helped me, that when voters would tell me, so your opponent came and said, da, 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 I would say, well, let me tell you about me. And I really think that helped in my community, that they didn't want me to go there. And so I didn't, no matter how hard it was. But that goes back to what every other elected woman has said. I went and complained to all my women friends, guess what's being said? And this is how I have to deal with it. Or I went and hit my punching bag because I boxed for 10 years. So I went and hit that in the garage. And it made me feel better. But I think you have to flip it and talk about you. And talk about it differently. But I know Karina and Katie definitely had a harder time with that than I did.
Karina, and then I think Jackie was speaking too. So Karina, go ahead, and then Jackie, and then I'll
Yeah, so I think that this campaign in particular, or this campaign cycle, has been the nastiest I've ever seen in my life. From Angelique Ashby to Jaclyn, me, and Katie Maple, the lies and the negativity were just unacceptable and disgusting. It feels awful to wake up in the morning to hear that I'm a career politician and seeing my face distorted and just getting text messages. And it was just so nasty. And I think that we need to use our personal connections to people to say, hey, you need to stop that kind of behavior. So for example, there's a few people that did negative things against me that maybe somebody else in this group might have a relationship with. Use those connections to leverage positive messaging and call it out even when it's your friend. I think that's going to be one of the most important things to support one another. You got to call out your friends when they're doing wrong by the people that you love or care about. And agree, Heather, on legislation. Happy birthday.
Jackie?
Yeah, I just want to, second what Karina said, the nastiest election with the most sexism. I think CBS did a report that Karina was on a TV talking about the increase in violence against women this cycle, and how women candidates and how it is just out of control. And coincidentally, the people that had the most negative campaigning and the most lies told about them were all women in our community. There is a backlash happening right now, right here in our progressive state of California, around women, getting more power. But I do have to say, if it is an outright lie, don't be afraid to use the legal system. I mean, I wrote a cease and desist, and
just a minute, I was trying to listen to the.
Oh, sorry, I just thought someone was talking. I wrote a cease and desist, and that actually worked to take away one of the outright lies where they just said I committed tax fraud. In fact, I was so distraught by that ad that came out that said I committed tax fraud that I called my husband and I said, did we ever commit tax fraud? And is there something that I don't remember? Because it just seems so impossible that these lies can be told with a straight face and hundreds of thousands of dollars backing behind them, that you think you're crazy, right? It's like you think you're being, you're being gaslit. You're like, wait, did I do that? I'm just forgetting. I don't understand. But yeah, and just like Karina said, there's really two types of negative campaigning. There's the negative campaigning where they tell the truth about you, where they say that they don't agree with some kind of policy that you said you supported, or, you made a decision on the dais if you've already been elected and they're calling you out for that quote unquote bad decision that you made. That's actually, in my opinion, fine. And that's healthy in political discourse. I think you should be able to keep elected officials accountable by calling them out in the campaign process for decisions they made or didn't make for your community. But the part that's the hardest are the outright lies, the name calling, baby killer, emails, text messages about how people want to kill me. I better watch my back, that they're glad that I was raped, that they hope it happens again. These are the messages I got. Probably, I would say, over 50 messages directly to me through Facebook or phone calls or emails or what have you. So it has got to stop. And I don't know what the answer is. Angelique's our new state senator, and hopefully she can come up with some legislation because it's out of control. And if any of you ever run for office, again, lean on the people who have gone through this cycle, because we know exactly how it feels to be on the back end of this, because it's hard. It is so hard. I remember one day I was knocking on doors and I came up to a no party preference, and you're never quite sure how those people are going to receive your information. And the man that answered the door screamed in my face. You did the thing that we all know men do, squared up with this, like, I'm going to punch you type body language, and said, I will never fucking vote for a baby killer. Get the fuck off my property. And I was like, oh my God. Turned around, ran, immediately started crying. Came home, talked to Karina, Angelique, and Katie on our little thread. They gave me, and Zima, I know I talked to Zima too, gave me like, you can do this, it's gonna be okay. Came and talked to my husband, and my husband said, well, I support you if you wanna stop your precinct today, but I'm gonna go out there with you if you wanna finish it. Because fuck that guy. He doesn't get to decide what your outcome of your life and what you do for the rest of the day. So I say all of that to just say that it is harder than hell to do this work, but the people that you surround yourself with are going to keep you going. And don't be afraid to use the goddamn legal system when people are lying and there's no proof for it, because sometimes it can work. So that's it. That's my little 2 cents, probably 4 cents, more than you asked for.
No, well, that's okay. You needed to get it out, and that's what we're here for. Rebecca Sandoval had her hand up. Mayor Fargo had her hand up. Now, Rebecca, I have to go with Mayor Fargo because it's her birthday, and then we'll let you speak. Heather?
Honey, thank you very much. Pardon my voice. I'm also doing my annual winter cold. It's not COVID. So,
somebody froze.
But anyway, just wanted to let the people who ran for the first time and think that this has never happened to anybody before join the group, join the crowd. This has been going on for decades, ever since we've all been involved in this. So I'm sorry for what has happened to the women in this round. And I think it's more exacerbated now for 2 reasons. One, because we have the asshole Trump as president for a while, when all the rules went away. And also because of what you all like, which I don't, which is social media. People have access now to a lot more ways to express their hatred of us. And so I think those are the 2 things that kind of amplified it. And I'm sorry, but it's been around since women started running, and will probably always will be. But I like the idea of kind of putting together a list of how do you fight back? How do you respond when these things happen? Because you all didn't know when you were getting into this that it was going to happen to you. Lauren and I knew it. Rebecca knew it. Who else is on the call? Delane knew it. It's part of what happens, and it continues once you're elected. So it's one of those things where you're right. If you have a group you can talk to, that's wonderful. And some of the dialogue has changed again because a lot of the rules have now been disappeared. We used to have a lot more, I don't know what the word is, respectful interchange, at least sometimes. I mean, but we've gone through waves, and hopefully we'll get back to being a little kinder to each other. Anyway, it's nice to see everybody. I am now going to sign off so I can get some dinner and get ready for my next round of Theraflu. Good to see you all.
Happy
Bye.
birthday,
Thank you, Heather.
Birthday, Heather.
Happy
Rebecca.
birthday. Yeah, I think Heather summed it up pretty good. These kind of attacks, gaslighting, yeah, all of that has happened. I have been followed home late at night. I have been accused of trying to defund the police when only asking for accountability. And what I was really surprised this go around is that when I tried to speak up for the women in our community to be provided with shelter that will leave them with dignity, when in our area they wanted to put 150 people in tough sheds with no plumbing and 150 people trying to shower and get their children to school in the morning. Now, I was with an entire school board that passed a resolution against that particular proposal. From a health standpoint, I could go on and on. But it was very interesting that there seemed to be a collective decision that would be what labor and other groups would attack me on. But people know that I have spoken for the underdog time and time again, and what I have done for the community. So you've just got to say, well, you can say what you want, but I know what I'm about and I'm doing the right thing, and have your faith. In my last campaign, my mother was dying, and I remember the man I ran against actually started crying in an interview with Building and Trades, got their endorsement. The particular candidate I just ran against seemed to have got the information incorrect and really didn't know the people he was talking to, but got the endorsement. There are women on this call who didn't support me, who have told me at some point I should find somebody else to run against me. So it's really disheartening. It's nice that you see this love from all of you. And I hope someday to be asked to join in these groups that women have formed. I mean, I've been here 10 years, done some amazing things in our district, and I want to be a part of this. And so I hope that in the future I'll be included in this. I know I might be older than most of you. I mean, I was told I didn't get the endorsement because I don't have children in the district, but I have a grandchild in the district. So I think we need to look at all of that, not just
She's a school board.
sexism, but ageism as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And you have helped me segue into the next message. I think our button is working on the website. We'd love to have you. As a matter of fact, if there's anyone on the call who isn't an active member, a current member, please, we ask you to join us because we can't do this alone. And we'd love to have you. Now, this was a great meeting. And I know that some of the comments that were made probably chafed with some other people on the call. All I can say is I really appreciate how much we respect each other, that we're not doing that back and forth thing. I mean, truly, this could go one way or the other, but we all know how important NWPC is, how important our caucus is, and that we make a difference. And the only way we can keep moving forward is by raising more money to help candidates who believe in a woman's right to choose, by recruiting and training And I mean, Rosanna,
Well, I hope it was
is the
good what
unofficial
she's saying.
recruitment chair. It's just part of her DNA, just go out and ask women to run for office. We're gonna look at having some sort of a event with the state board. Our board will have to discuss this. Our board will be having a retreat in early 2023. Once I get an ad hoc committee together to figure out how we do this and when and where. If there is something else in my message tonight that I haven't said, Gail, because I didn't write it down like I was supposed to, could you help me out? Because I know that Karen has already sent, see, this is what I'm talking about NWPC. They always send me the little notes. Karen sent me a little note because, you know, she's the past president. Get folks to join. Yes, start donating money to the PAC, really, because you'll get it back if you're a candidate. The money will come back to you. And then how we can support candidates and women generally, because we don't want to disappear in the non-election years. When something happens and you're elected and it's some BS, I'm gonna try to keep this clean, we're the ones you can help, you can also call for us to be there for you, right? This is what we want to do. We don't want to just recruit and train. We want to be there for you the way we helped Katie Valenzuela just before she was elected. This is what we do. Gail?
Well, you invited me to participate in this part, so of course I'm going to take the opportunity. What I'm hearing is that many of the candidates benefited from having a group of mentors available to them. And one of the things that Lauren's letter said when she invited all of you to come tonight was that you are our greatest asset. Our job is to recruit and to train and elect women, and you guys are figuring it out on your own. But if we could figure out a way to form some kind of mentor program, I can't imagine that you wouldn't be willing to participate in that, because you've already been through it. Why not help others figure out the best ways to go about things, or to be on that string that is available when somebody gets attacked, like Jaclyn having someone screaming at her. I don't know how we go about finding that, figuring it out, but if any of you have some idea of how to do that. I've never run for office. I don't have I never had any balls, but you know what I mean. We need you to help us help other women who want to run. And if you're not a member, please become one.
I want to thank this membership, because this is a year where you really went out of your way to help candidates, to help our endorsed candidates. And I think they could feel it. I mean, we don't think that we helped you win, but we know we wanted to help you. And so for that, I want to thank the membership. Guys can fight each other one night and then vote for each other the next day. I don't understand it, but women, we need to learn how to set things aside and move forward. And what I'm hearing tonight is that that's what everybody's doing, but the ugly ads still hurt. And we really will have to figure out something about independent expenditure committees versus freedom of speech. Yes, people can say anything, but that's why Jackie went to court. That's how you stop it, because they'll say anything, but then they may have to pay for it. I think that's part of the strategy. So if there isn't anything else, okay, ladies, this was a splendid meeting. I hope you agree.
Yep.
And our next quarterly meeting will be in March, and you will hear from us. So thank you for being a member. And if you're not a member, please join. If you have lapsed, please come back. Thank you.